So good morning. I'm blessed to know a lot of you. Some of you I haven't gotten to know yet. My name is Nicole Biscotti. I live, oh gosh, I'm sorry. I have puppies and they're a little hard to keep quiet. Surprise puppies, by the way. Surprise, we have babies like that on the couch. Anyways, I'm also a mom of humans and I'm a teacher. And just wanted to say that I'm not very techie, but I found a lot of ways to use AI and ChatGPT in my practice. And I'm confident that we can do this in education and it does benefit kids.
Absolutely. And so really, in line with what we were sharing about leadership and talking about briefly, and so happy to have Nicole back online with us. Hopefully the technology holds out for all of us on this session as we talk about technology, is really leadership within that context. And we'll talk a little bit about context as we get deeper into this, but certainly we want it to go ahead and benefit students because that is why we are in this business called education. Let me go ahead and do a quick check of the chat, I should say. And Terry says, my husband has me use an AI tool that will tune out the puppies. Well, we might need to go ahead and know what that AI tool is. So thank you for sharing that, Terry. Of course, if you have not gone over to the chat, make sure that you go over there and check it out from time to time. This is an interactive session, so we'll be asking for you to go ahead and respond and check in there at the chat and let us know your thoughts. So, embracing AI to foster leadership, ladies and gentlemen, if you were looking for another session, this is not that session. However, if you're looking for that session, you're in the right place. And again, we're going to have a great time. Let me go ahead and let Nicole introduce herself again with her proper slide there.
Like I said, I'm not sure how much you heard, but I'm a mom, I'm a teacher, and I'm an author and a speaker. I believe very strongly in meaningful inclusion and relevancy in education, which is why I know that we have to embrace this rapidly evolving technology. And it's exciting. It's very exciting what we can do. And I just decided to include some pictures of the people that I love the most and that inspire me the most, which are my babies. I wrote a book about one of them. There's my twin girls and my son, my oldest son.
Great stuff there. And if you guys have not, go out as quickly as possible, of course, after this session, and get Nicole's book. It is a great read. It is my honor, of course, as I've shared with you already. My name is Vernon Wright. Of course, you see there on my website, therightleader.com, has a few different things that I have been privileged to be a part of in terms of my body of work. Of course, if you wanted to connect with me ever via email, therightleader@gmail.com, it's right there. And of course, speaker, author, consultant, leader, and mentor. And one of the things that when I was reflecting on this, and Nicole and I were starting to prepare this, I was thinking about is really just that quote there. And simply, of course, it says AI presents an opportunity to enhance and elevate our impact and service to others, our relentless commitment. And I want to go ahead and mention that again because we all want to be impactful in the work that we do and in the things that we do in our life. And so our relentless commitment to servant leadership is our act of service to humanity. And ultimately, at the beginning and end of the day, and everywhere in between, it is about us as human beings. Of course, you see there, I'm involved in Toastmasters, have been privileged to have been on several different podcasts. And of course, to have co-authored the book that you see there, I wrote chapter 93. So with that being said, of course, gratitude. We never want to be in any space, whether it's one person, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million people, and not start out by saying, thank you. Thank you for being here. You could have been anywhere, could have been doing anything, but you chose to be here. And so we thank you for that. And so from the bottom of our heart, whether you're watching this live or on replay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, driving question. Hopefully you're ready. Do we have anyone, and this is not part of our chat, but we'll go ahead and see if it is. Do we have anyone here that is a part of Avid or has been Avid trained? If you drop a 1 in the chat, If you have been a part of Avid or you're Avid trained, if you just drop a 1 in the chat, if you go ahead and do that for us. And Nicole, if you can watch the chat for me and let us know what we're seeing there in the chat, if anyone is either currently in an Avid position or you have been in an Avid position before, advancement via individual determination. So I asked that question because guess what? We're coming up here with a driving thought. Those that are fans of Avid or have been in the Avid world, you know, we would call those EQs or essential questions. And so I have a driving thought here for you, and that's Maslow's before Bloom's. Maslow's before Bloom's. Okay. Why do you say that, Vernon? Well, here's what we say that from our good friends over there at Pushing Boundaries Educational Consulting. You see Maslow's hierarchy of needs on the left, and you see Bloom's taxonomy on the right. And one of the reasons why I really like this slide, and I've shared this with so many different audiences over the years, is that it really shows us the convergence of really what are those basic human needs that we have as human beings. And then obviously, too, what are those cognitive processes that we know are a part of Bloom's taxonomy? So wanted to go ahead and share that with you there because that is one of the lenses, the main lenses that we'll be looking through today. So again, thank you to our friends over at Pushing Boundaries Educational Consulting, Dr. Rick and Rebecca over there. Okay, and of course, again, Maslow's before Bloom's. All right, here comes your time to go ahead and participate in the chat. If you would, just go ahead and drop in the chat. What are some of the books that have made an indelible impression on you? What are some of those books? If you'll drop that in the chat. It can be either. Great question. Thank you for asking that. Good, good. I've never read that. I might need to go ahead and check that out. Okay. That's good. Absolutely. Mind, Brain, and Education Science. A comprehensive guide to the new brain-based teaching. Okay, good. I might have to check that one out as well. Indeed, I might have to. That's good. Anyone else want to contribute? I'll go ahead and say this. One of the books that really shaped my life, and we'll be talking, of course, today about leadership as well, and kind of how that lives in the world of AI, is The 5 Levels of Leadership by John C. Maxwell, one of my absolutely favorite books. And you might be wondering, you know, Vernon and Nicole, why would you go ahead and include this slide here in this session? Really to just go ahead and give us more context and to really just bring to the forefront of our knowledge something that we already know, and that's that the different experiences and books are certainly a part of that, that we come into contact with shape our perspectives. And so perspectives are everything. My friend Vicki Wilson, good to see you here. Vicki, always love to be in the thought space with you. She says, Dare to Lead and Rising Strong. Those are some Brene Brown titles right there. I recognize those immediately. Visible Learning, Art of Coaching Teams. Yes, absolutely. That's good. And I'll go ahead and say this in the coaching space, this is not a coaching session, but certainly we know that anytime that we're dealing with coaching, we have to really make that connection. We have to make a true collaborative connection, as my friend Jim Knight would say. Alone together is what Rachel says, why we expect more from technology and less from each other. That is good. We'll be talking a little bit, Nicole and I will, about screen time. Okay. Dr. Eileen, good to see you. Presence by Peter Singay, I believe is how you say that last name. Forgive me if I pronounce that incorrectly, but that is good. Now, I must say this, Alan, I absolutely love Pat's work. And so I see that where it says Working Genius and the Advantage. Pat is awesome and phenomenal. So I'll go ahead and say this. We're certainly, this again is not the aspect or focus of this session, but if you have not taken the Working Genius assessment, I do highly recommend that. I had taken the MBTI, I've taken DISC, I've taken the colors test and other assessments as well as it relate to leadership. And I do believe that the working genius assessment is the most accurate one to this point in my life. And I've been taking MBTI and those other assessments for 20 years now. So great to see that. Yes, great to see you too, Eileen. Nicole and I are honored to have you and everyone else here in the space. So let's go ahead and let's go to the next thing. I wanted to go ahead and share this real quick. Anytime we come into a space where it's a space of learning, we want to really look at four things. And I was privileged to share this with a group of civilian leaders at an Army installation about 3 years ago here in Texas. And of course, some of you may know that as Fort Cavazos. And so, introduction, overview, outcomes, and intent. You always want to think about those: introduction, overview, outcomes, and intent. All right, introduction, we've kind of showed you all who we are. Outcome or overview, our focus, we're going to tell you a little bit about that. Outcomes, we're going to be going through that, of course, in a slide deck today. And then, of course, this last piece, which is a huge part of leadership, which is the intent. Okay. Overview of today's session. Nicole, do you want to go ahead and share that with us, please?
I think this part would probably be best for you to go over because this is all your wheelhouse.
Okay. Right? I will do that. Not a problem. So one of the things that you'll hear us talk about a lot today is just three simple things: connect, impact, scale. Connect, impact, scale. And so connection, as you see there, is simply really connecting with someone else's story, listening to their story, understanding what's important to them, and also to understanding not only what's important to them, but understanding how can we help them be better in what they're doing. That's that servant leadership part, which is one of our main core themes today that you'll be hearing us talk about. Impact. I've been asked a lot of different times in many different places, Vernon, how do you know that you made an impact? And simply, I look at it this way and have in terms of my working definition, which is that making an impact is simply adding value. And if you've added value to someone's life, you've made an impact. A scale, of course, scale simply for me is how can we reach as many people as possible by making those authentic connections and making an impact. Okay, so connect, impact, scale. We'll be talking a lot about that today. But first, let's address the elephant in the school. Not everyone wants more AI in school. So why do you think there's reservation to AI in education? If you would please drop that in the chat. Drop that in the chat. Why do you think there's more, or there is reservation to AI in education? And to that matter, why do you think there's even more AI, more reservation to AI now than maybe there was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Looking forward to seeing what answers we have here in the chat.
Are you ready to revolutionize your professional learning? It's time to ignite your passion with EduMatch. Inspire, connect, and grow. Access over 150 professional learning facilitators and explore a wide range of educational topics. This is not just professional development, this is a movement. Discover how EduMatch can support your school or district. Connect with us today and make a world of difference for your students. To learn more, visit us online at edumatch.org.
Alan says, because people are afraid of the ramifications or consequences of using the resource. That's great, Alan. That is one of the things that we know that people are a little fearful of. We'll just go ahead and use that word fearful. Yeah, go ahead, Nicole.
And I think that refers to really just people not being informed. And yes, it's overwhelming to learn about it and to deal with another new technology. I would just like to point out that as adults, we have had to deal with so many changes in technology. It's been a whirlwind. Like, I've thought about that a lot. I'm 47. I don't know that people in other parts of history, other times in history, have had so many different technologies come at them so quickly to adapt to.
Yes, absolutely. So, and those are great points there. Dr. Eileen says, feels overwhelming. Yes, absolutely. And, Nicole was just speaking to that and making some great points about really, especially, during the pandemic, pandemic, during the pandemic, and coming out of the pandemic, we've really been forced to adapt. And it's kind of interesting. Dave Burgess, of course, many of you know him. He has said on several occasions that, the pandemic really didn't stop and ask anyone, would you like to adapt or not? It just forced us to go ahead and adapt. And so that's a great thing there. Let's go back to the chat here. Alan says, however, I think a part of it is a problem with relinquishing power to not having the answer. That is a great point, Alan. And so for some people, that really causes a little bit of trepidation there because you're like, well, I'm having to go to someone else for the answer. But, right? But however, I think that there's an opportunity in that. Vicky says, change causes feeling of threat. Okay, yes, absolutely. And so again, just that change and that adaptability piece. But I'll go ahead and I'll say this: anytime we have change, it always presents an opportunity for us to reinvent ourselves. It feels like cheating. Vicky says that as well. Okay, yeah, they're not going to learn anything anymore. Yes, absolutely, Rachel. We're not there. We're not there. But what happened with calculators? People kind of said some of the same things. What are you going to say there, Nicole?
No, excuse me. I was just going to go back to what Alan said about relinquishing power and not having the answer. And I think that this really goes back to this whole idea of decentralized learning and teachers repositioning themselves as designers of educational experiences as opposed to the sage on the stage. So we still, I guess, as a career or as a profession, see this as an attack on us, like our robots going to take us over. Now the computers can do everything. And then it feels like cheating or they're not going to learn anything. But we could reframe that and think about the fact that it takes a lot of the mundane out of teaching and learning, which we'll get more into later on.
Absolutely. And so one of the things that you'll hear us talk about as a core concept, and Nicole is absolutely right there, is, and I'm going to throw the word out there, enhance. And I'll say it a couple of more times, enhance. So whenever we think about AI or someone says AI, one of the first words that we might want to entertain is enhance, ENHANCE, enhance. Okay, AI in education. The good, the threatening, and the overwhelming. Wow, there's a lot there. We'll go ahead and give you about 10, 15 seconds to just go ahead and look over those three categories: the good, the threatening, and the overwhelming. And Nicole, if you'll share a little bit with us about these three that are there, those three categories.
So I think that when something is so big as this change, it's good to look at it in categories. And I think that one thing as leaders that we can do is make a chart like this with our staff and just have that level of vulnerability and honesty and enter into a collaborative learning space, because we are all learning this together. It's developing. And what we learned this week about how we can use AI in our school could be blown out of the water next week. We are all learning together. So it's a great modeling opportunity. But one way we could do that is to just really as a group look at what is good about this, what is threatening about it, and what's overwhelming about it. And I think that this is an opportunity for connection among staff.
Absolutely. So again, you see one of those main things, one of those core themes again is connection. Okay. Connection, which is really, well, I'll go ahead and I'll draw a correlation here. One that I think is maybe a subtle one, but I think it's a significant one. And that is connection, but not only connection, but to whom we're connected. And the reason why I believe that to whom we're connected is important is because that gives us perspective, and which is at the core central part, if you will, of really what we're talking about here today with AI. Because if we're connected with the right people that are talking about AI from the perspective of really asking, the question, and we'll get into really kind of a couple of different types of questions we can ask to really promote our executive function, um, which AI does quite well, is to really think about, hey, how can I use AI to enhance? Okay. How can I use AI to enhance? Because some of the questions that are here, if you notice them, um, they're really from this perspective of maybe trepidation or fear. Okay. So just want you to kind of look at that. And of course, we have the good and of course the overwhelming there as well. So, point of reflection, many advancements in life have been met with skepticism, fierce pushback, and in some cases, outright rejection. And I want you to think about some of the advancements that, because of technology, that we have in our lives as commonplace things. Calculators, computers, and automobiles. Of course, several of you know that when computers were first created in their infancy, so to speak, there were many people that laughed at them. And some of the people that told the late Steve Jobs really asked him, why in the world would anyone even need a computer? And of course, now you fast forward and look at where computers are in our lives. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Of course, in our automobiles. If any of you have ever driven a fairly modern car, you know that computer chips are a huge part of that. And so they are programmed, which is what, of course, AI is, which is programming. I did want to go ahead and mention this about the calculators. Isn't it interesting that when calculators really came on the scene and became really mass produced and started to really be used in a lot of different classrooms, that people had this fear that people would stop learning math, but that really didn't happen. And so those are just some examples today of things that we use in our lives. So that brings us to the next slide. What's the definition of leadership? What is the definition of leadership? If you would drop that in the chat, what is leadership? Of course, here today in this session, we're talking about embracing AI to go ahead and enhance and make better our leadership. What is your definition of leadership? If you will drop that in the chat. So great to have you all here in the session. Nicole and I are honored, very much so, to be on the chat with you all here today. Talking again about embracing AI for leadership. And so while you all kind of think about that, about what is the definition of leadership, I wanted to share something with you. And so here's what I wanted to share with you about the definition of leadership. And of course, before I share that with you, Rachel here says, encouraging others' growth and collaboration. That is great. I really, really like that. This is an aside, but just a little bonus. Nicole and I wish to go ahead and add here to the dialogue. If you have not read the book Multipliers by Liz Wiseman, do highly recommend that book. Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. Vicky says, guiding vision and growth in an organization. Absolutely. Because if you're not doing that, then really what are you doing for the organization as a quote unquote leader? Okay. Alan says, modeling the use of instructional tools. Absolutely. And one of the reasons why I really love that answer and all of the answers that you've shared here is that the leader goes first. So the leader should be out there, not telling other people to go out there and do it first. And then they come back along and they kind of decide what they're going to do. But in a lot of different instances in life, professionally and personally, people are looking to leaders to be the pathfinders and pace setters. So let's go ahead and look at the definition of leadership right there. And that's from Merriam-Webster. So I'm going to give you a second or two to go ahead and look at those definitions. Yeah, let me go ahead and go back over to the chat here and see what we have. Dr. Eileen says, that's a big one. For me, it's ensuring the participation of all by encouraging voices to be shared and instilling a sense of belonging and validation for each team member by recognizing strengths after getting to know each member of the team. Now, here's one of the things that Nicole and I would like for you to do. So you see there the definition on your screen of leadership. And then, of course, you see what Dr. Eileen has shared with us there in the chat. as well as the other definitions that you all have shared with us. So I want you to think about this. Don't drop it in the chat right now, but I just want you to think about this as we go forward. How does your definition of leadership match with the dictionary's definition of leadership? And this comes, of course, from Merriam-Webster's. Think about how do those two align with each other? Okay, some great answers there in the chat. Really enjoying that. So connect, making authentic connections. What is your leadership role in education? What is your leadership vision? And of course, one of the great things for us to go ahead and ask is in the last 7 days, how have you made authentic connections in the professional spaces in your life? Don't need to necessarily drop that in the chat right now, but it is something we want you to think about. In the last 7 days, how have you made authentic connections in the professional spaces of your life? And here's why Nicole and I want to ask you that question, because really, without getting too ahead of ourselves, if we're not making authentic connections with people, are we really opening up the door to help elevate other people in significant ways? Because I want you to think about this professionally and personally in your life. Nicole and I want you to think about this. When someone has made an impact in your life and you've been most appreciative for that, I want you to tell me of an instance where they didn't make a connection beforehand. Okay. Not saying that that's not possible, but typically in our lives, when people really make an impact in our lives, they've made a connection to everyone that they have made an impact on. A connection. Okay.
EduMatch Publishing is dedicated to inspiring a love of reading in children one story at a time. Our books are designed for all ages and are written by educators for all students. Our goal is to transform your home or classroom into a world of reading, where students can explore and learn. As the publishing branch of EduMatch, we're proud to offer books that are created by experts in the field of education. Order your books today and start a new tradition with the special kiddos in your life. Visit our website to learn more.
So we want you to think about that piece there. All right. We're going to go over a couple of other things here real quick. You'll see connections to EQ. Okay. Leadership requires proficiency there. And I want to go ahead and mention a couple of other things Nicole and I do, which is how can AI help us gain clarity in our leadership role and enhance our leadership vision? Okay. There's that. Connection, point of reflection. All right. Again, talking more about that connect piece. Now, as we're finishing this up and we're wrapping this up, here's what we would like for you all to do, right? Because we want to make sure that you get all of this information. If you would go ahead and drop your emails in the chat section. We want to make sure that we go ahead and get this PowerPoint out to you so you can have all of this information. We want to make sure that that's out there for you. Okay, so if you'll just drop that in the chat, that would be most helpful to us. Thank you so much.
Yes, and we'll make sure that you have specific resources about how AI can support leaders with different technologies and how we can create a culture of collaborative learning as leaders on campus. We have to remember that we're not gatekeepers as educators. We don't get to decide what technologies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, Dr. Eileen. And
ChatGPT to prepare the future leaders and to prepare students. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think you cut out there. I think you froze up a little bit, but that's okay.
No, I'm just saying that our mandate as educators is to prepare leaders, and we have to prepare them for the world that they're going to be working in and living in, not for our past world that doesn't exist anymore, right? And this is a very relevant technology, and it's also an opportunity for us to create, like you said, enhanced connection on campus, engage in learning, model vulnerability, and just have these honest teachers starting at the top, right? Like in administrative circles, and then in educators. What areas would you like to free up? What areas are you spending your time on that are just monotonous, that are not part of what your passion is for teaching? How can we use these technologies, engage in these conversations, spark these conversations, permeate to the classroom? Because the bottom line is that it's been shown in research that at least 30% of teachers feel, teachers feel that at least 30% of their day is taken up by mundane tasks. And that's not relationship building, and that's not educating. And that's where, if we can leverage ChatGPT to do some of those mundane tasks, we can do great things. I wrote an article about how, as a teacher myself, I'm able to use ChatGPT to save myself a lot of time. So, just there is one way.
Absolutely. Some great things there that Nicole has shared. I think maybe there a time or two, Nicole, you froze a little bit. So we appreciate you hanging there with us and being there with us as we deal with technology. So most definitely so. So of course, again, and I see some emails that are there in the chat. Thank you all for that. On behalf of Nicole and myself, thank you for being here in the space. And we look forward to continuing the dialogue with you in the future. Nicole, I turn it over to you, ma'am.
I just repeat what you said. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for being educators that spend your time on the weekends to engage in these conversations. It's a privilege to have had to share space with you.